You are bold, you are fearless, you are radiant. It's time to unlock the diamond from within. BFF, we rise above, stronger together, we shine with love. Faith unshaken, hearts on fire, fearless souls, we're reaching high.
Hey guys, it's Blaque Diamond, and welcome back to another episode of the BFF Empowerment Podcast. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far, a wonderful start to your new month of August. I hope the day has been being well to you. I hope people have been being kind to you, and I hope you are in for an empowering episode today. So before we get into what the episode is about today, let's do our midweek, midday check-in.
What's going on? What's happening? Time for the midweek check-in. What's going on? What's happening? Time for the midweek check-in.
All right. So what have I been up to this week? So I remember previously I told you guys that I had a speaking opportunity. Well, unfortunately, that opportunity has flopped. The person that was supposed to be coordinating that engagement just was not on her P's and Q's and not working professionally. So I was not able to participate. I did everything I was supposed to do on my end. All the information that she asked for, I provided, but unfortunately, she just did not hold up her end of the agreement. So I won't be doing that speaking engagement, unfortunately, but there will be other opportunities. So definitely not, feeling too bad about that one. I work professionally, and so if I am working with someone and they just don't come off as being professional or having everything together, it's not something I want to be associated with. In other news, let's see, what else have I been up to? So currently, um, I'm dreading moving right now. My significant other and I are taking that next step in our relationship and moving together. So we're basically right now we're living separately, so we're coming together as a family, a blended family, converging on one new living situation. And I'm pretty sure all of you out there who are, who've moved before hate the thought of moving as well, as much as I do. So right now I'm kind of taking it slow. We got some U boxes, set out in our current complexes, and so we'll be slowly moving our items into those boxes and then having them to come pick them up and take them to our new place. So this is my first experience using U-Box or pods or whatever, I'm used to just hiring a moving company and calling it a day. But we wanted to try something a little bit different, a little bit more budget friendly. So we're doing U-Boxes. So this is definitely an experience. But other than that, that is all I've been up to this week. All right, guys. So today's episode is all about my experience with being a quote unquote runaway bride. Um so those of you who are, survivors of domestic violence, if this is a topic that is going to trigger you, please don't listen to this episode. Or even if you're not a survivor of domestic violence, if this talking about this topic can be triggering to you, then definitely do not listen to this episode. But I wanted to share my experience and my journey with my healing and my growth and how I came out of this situation. So to start off, I met the guy that I ended up marrying. So I used to attend a local church here in North Carolina, and I was an active member of the church, and I used to engage and just, very active. And so come to find out, after I met the guy, his name was Michael, that I married, I didn't even realize that before I even knew who he was, I had already been interacting with his family, his mom, his sister, his aunt, like, because they all belong to the same church. He, at the time, was not living here in North Carolina anymore. He had moved away. So I wanted to kind of preface the story by saying that. So basically, I had already been engaging, interacting with his family without even knowing who he was. So how Michael and I met was I was at one of my previous employers, and I got a phone call, and it was someone that was looking for a job. So I was just talking to him about the job and things like that. So he had actually called the wrong location. We had two locations. He actually had called, he was meaning to call the main location because that's who was hiring. But he ended up calling my location, and I was the one who answered the phone. So we're talking, and it was just like, I don't know, something just clicked. This had never happened before. Like, I was sitting here just talking to this guy like I didn't have a job to do. And I was thinking that in my head. I'm like, oh wow. But, we were talking and talking, and eventually, I kind of was like, oh, yeah, I got to get back to work. So he was like, can we exchange numbers? So we did. So, went on with my work day, got home, we were talking nonstop. So for like 6 months, we talked, developed a friendship, talked every day. At this time, my son was about a year and a half or so. So I was going through a lot of stuff with his medical issues and things like that. And so we talked about that. He talked about, being a single dad and how, his daughter at that time was grown and stuff like that. But we really, really, really developed a really good relationship. And it was long distance, so we had never actually met in person, but we talked on the phone daily. So after that, somehow we lost connection. I don't know. So when he did come back around, he told me eventually that he had moved away. But at that time, he was living in North Carolina, but he was probably living about 2 hours or so away. So we just remained friends and connected because at that time I wasn't looking to date. I was just focused on being a mom and, just taking care of, my son. And so we just maintained that friendship. Then that friendship just kind of, fizzled out a little bit. That's why I said I don't. Eventually, I found out he ended up moving away. So, went on with life, and then I ended up leaving that employer. Because I ended up just leaving so that I could take care of my son and, all of his medical stuff he had going on. So one day, one of my, people that I used to work with that I was friends with, called me up one day, and she was like, "Do you know a guy named Michael?" And she was like, "Yeah, he was asking about you, and I'll let him know that you didn't work here anymore." And he was just saying all these things as if he knew you. And I honestly, because it had been so long, like I had totally forgot. And I'm like, Michael? No, I don't think I know anybody named Michael because this is probably like 2 years later, a year and a half later, something like that. So after our initial, 6 months of just talking nonstop. And so I just couldn't remember him. Like I just, and she was like, well, he wants me to give him your number. Is it okay? Because by that time my number had changed and all of that. Um, and so I was just like, I was kind of a little leery at first, but then I was like, okay, I don't know this person. I don't remember him, but maybe if I talk to him, maybe his voice or something to jog my memory. So she ended up giving him my number. He ended up calling me. And as soon as we talked, it was like we picked up like we had never left. I remembered him. He remembered every conversation we had. He was telling me about remembering when I was telling him about how my son needed leg braces and everything. And I'm just like, wow, I honestly couldn't remember him, but he remembered everything and every conversation we had. And it was just like, wow. So we literally picked up like there was no time lost. And so, but instead of just a friendship, we started dating. Um, so at this time he was living in West Virginia. So he would come up to see me. Me and my son would go to see him because it was only about 2 hours away. So he basically was courting me. Um, I talked to him about my needs and wants as far as a relationship. After dealing with my son's dad and, ended up, basically being pregnant against my will. So for those of you who may have missed that episode, I talked about that situation in my parenting while blind episode. So if you want to go back and tune into that to see what I'm talking about as far as that situation goes, feel free to do so. But so after dealing with my son, in that situation, I decided, I made a personal vow to God that I would not date anymore. Well, not anymore, but I would not basically be intimate with anybody unless we were married. And it was just something I felt like I really had to protect myself because of that situation. And so I made a personal vow to God to remain celibate until he sent me my husband. And that I would have no more children out of wedlock as well. And so I remained single, up until that point for 4 years. I just focused on being a mom and taking care because I had guys, I went on dates, but they just didn't pan out. They weren't what I was looking for. They just it to me it became obvious that yeah, they were just looking for one thing or they weren't where I wanted my guy to be. And so I did not, I was not intimate. I stayed celibate and focused on what I needed to focus on. And so Michael came along, he knew all of that. He portrayed himself to be a man of God, a man that was upstanding, that was, basically everything I was looking for. And what topped it off, he was actually blind like myself. So, in my dating experience, I have only dated two other blind men. And so I was like, you know what? I hadn't dated someone else that was blind in a long time, and especially someone who was totally blind, the same as me. So I'm like, you know what? I want to see where this goes. Like this, I think this would be interesting. And like I've never dated someone who couldn't see the same as me. So, we were dating. Like he was literally courting me. Like we went everywhere together. We did everything together. He would come up for Halloween with me and my son. Our both of our birthdays are in September, so I went down to see him for his birthday. He came up to see me. It was just a lot of back and forth. It was considered a long distance, but I didn't really consider it a long distance relationship because I lived in North Carolina, he was in West Virginia. We were literally 2 hours away from each other. And so we did that for from March of 2022 until October of 2022. So basically, we courted, or he courted me for 7 months, and then he asked me to marry him. And I said yes. I was just wrapped up in this fairy tale. He was basically showing me the perfect man. Like he had it all together. He had his own place. He had steady employment. He single-handedly raised his daughter, who was grown now. So he was portraying himself to be everything that I was looking for in a partner, and he was honoring my vows to God of not to be intimate until I was married. So to me, like that was the perfect sign of respect, and that he was this upstanding person that he was portraying himself to be. So we ended up making a decision that me and my son would relocate to West Virginia with him. So during this process, he was helping me move, getting things packed up, all of this for our move to West Virginia. At first, I was not, okay with the idea. I was like, just from my experience, going to West Virginia, it was wonderful. Like it was a small town, and so everyone was so welcoming and things like that, but I just couldn't get the fact that it was a small town, the transportation was limited, things like that. But I was in love and I wanted to be with him. So I let go of my feelings of, moving to a smaller town that didn't have the comforts that I was used to with transportation and employment and things like that. So my son and I ended up leaving North Carolina, moved to West Virginia with him and to his place. So let me backtrack a little bit. So Michael told me that he worked from home as an insurance salesperson. So when I would go to his house, he had two bedrooms. He had his bedroom, and then he had a second bedroom set up like his office. He's like, that's where, he worked. So by the time we moved to West Virginia, he told me during that process he had been laid off. So he was receiving, unemployment, and he was still looking for work and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, cool. Things happen, you're still being responsible. You're not just like, laying around and not doing anything, not looking for work. So I'm like, okay, cool. So by the time my son and I moved to West Virginia to live with him permanently, to start our new life together, he had transformed his second bedroom into a bedroom suited for a toddler. My son at the time was 3 years old. He went out and bought toys. He had beds, he had dresser. Like he really had the bedroom set up for a little prince. Like my son, he just loved it, and he fell in love the same as I did. Excuse me. And at this time, my son had never really had any male role models in his life. It had only just been me and him. And so he latched on to Michael very quickly. Uh, he was calling him dad. It was like an immediate um relationship, and he treated my son well. He, would go on walks with him. He would take him to the store with him. He would play with him. Like he just stepped right on in and was that father my son needed. And their relationship was so beautiful to me because we had a beautiful relationship and he had a beautiful relationship with my son. Um, and then, because we moved to West Virginia in November, like maybe a week before Thanksgiving, because we had already planned that, my son and I would come down for Thanksgiving, he would come up for Christmas. But by that time, he had already proposed, and we decided that we would relocate to West Virginia. So, for Thanksgiving, we cooked together. Like, that was my first experience of feeling like a family. Even though it was only the three of us, like, it felt so natural. Like, I had been used to being the third wheel in my friend's family because I never had a relationship with my family. So everyone would invite me to, go to Christmas dinner or go to Thanksgiving. And, I appreciated the invites, but I always felt like a third wheel, or I always just felt some type of way because at the end of the day, they weren't my family. That was their intimate family. They had relationships with these people. I was just there basically as an invitee. And it always made me feel some type of way during the holidays. I would always be depressed and things like that because I wanted that family and I never had that. So to see that, I now had that, although it was small, but I was starting to have that semblance of my own family, was just the best thing ever to me. And I was just so excited. Like, we, cooked Thanksgiving dinner together. Like, he cooked one half of the dinner, I cooked the other half. Like, my son, he was just there playing. We watched movies. It was just such a wonderful feeling. I was on top of the moon. Like, I literally felt like it was a fairy tale. Um, we would go on long walks, and the more I was there, I actually started enjoying being in a smaller town, that to the point where, yeah, we could literally walk everywhere. And so we would go to like the waterfalls, we would walk to the grocery store, we would walk, we had already signed my son up for daycare or Head Start. Like, everything was set. Our family was complete. We had already talked about expanding our family because he knew I wanted another child. And so after my situation with my son, I had a not an implant, an IUD put in just to protect me from never basically having a choice of when I wanted to have a child taken away from me again. And so I had the IUD birth control put in since I could no longer take, the pills or anything like that due to the previous circumstances. And so, we talked about it and I told him, yes, like once we were married and everything, I would go and have it, taken out so that we could plan for our new baby. Um, we had all set up doctor's appointments and everything to, get physicals. Like, we were literally just building our lives together. I had already let him know that, I wanted to work, even though he told me I didn't have to work if I didn't want to. Like, literally, I didn't. I'm like, wow, I've never been with somebody that felt like that, like would tell me no, I could work if I wanted to, but I really didn't need to. He had me. Um, he would literally run me baths every day. Like, he knew how much I enjoyed taking baths. So that was the most romantic thing. Like, I had never had a guy run me bath water before. Like, and he made sure he did it every day. Like, he literally treated me like a princess. He called me his princess. Like, when he would send me text messages, it was always good morning, princess. How, before we actually moved. So it was always princess, queen, things like this. He really, like, just courted me and romanticized me. Like, he really made me feel like I had finally met my match. We talked about all the things we had accomplished in life and all the things we had done. And it was like it was a mirror image of me. He was just a male version of me, and he would say that I was the female version of him. And it was just so, I don't know, it just felt so right. And I started developing relationships with his family, during this process, and talking to them on the phone. And they were excited about us getting married, and they were encouraging us to get married. And things like that. Like, everyone was involved, everyone was excited. I had told my friends about, us and us getting married, and everyone was excited. I even reached out to some of my friends who were married to get advice, to talk to them about marriage, and because for me this is new. And I wanted to make sure that, along my faith and my beliefs, that I was doing and living things the right way. Um, and so I got advice, and I was just talking to older, friends who had been through marriage, and things like that to make sure that I could be the best wife that I could be to him. Even though naturally I've always been just the right woman for a man, they just haven't been the right man for me and what I was looking for. So, everyone was on board. Like it was just this happiness that I had never, ever, ever experienced in my life. And so at first we were going to actually get married the following year. But he was like, why wait? Why we're happy. Why not just go ahead and do this now? And I'm like, okay, why not? Let's do it. It's kind of like a spur of the moment. So we eloped. We went to the courthouse. We had a minister marry us, and we were married. And at first, I was very excited about it. And then as the day got closer, I kind of started feeling a little bit sad because I was like, well, I want, my friends to be involved, and I wanted my friends to, be at my wedding and things like that. And so he was like, "That's okay. We can have another wedding. We can just wait until, it gets warmer and just have an actual wedding where we could invite all our family and everything next year," which would have been 20 May of 2023, because we got married in December of 2022, of which, of course, in the dead of winter, so it was cold and things like that. And I've always wanted more of a summertime, outside, nice weather type of wedding. So, we made plans. We talked to his family, kind of let everybody know. We're going to go ahead and get married, but we're going to actually have, a ceremony, back in North Carolina where everyone could come and, witness. So that made me feel better, about the whole situation. We had planned to do a honeymoon. There was a resort in West Virginia. And so we were planning to go to the resort, and that was going to be our honeymoon, and just spend like a few days at the resort, take our little guy, let him have fun, things like that. So it's just like, wow, like this is really happening. Like, so when we got married, um, one of my friends was actually, I called her on FaceTime. So she ended up taking like pictures and, things like that. So she was there to kind of witness us getting married. And my son, of course, he was there. And so of course it was just me, him, my son, my friend that was on FaceTime, and the minister. So we were married December 7th of 2022. Um, it was the happiest day of my life. I couldn't believe that I was actually someone's wife. Like, I couldn't believe this person chose me to be his wife. So we went out that day to celebrate after we got married. It just so happened that there was a fair, like a carnival going on that day. So we took like a little trolley train to the fair and, let my son play games. And we went on the Ferris wheel. There was like ice skating. We had like all the fair food and cotton candy, and just, it was such a beautiful day. And we went on like a train ride around the city and things like that. It was just like the most romantic day. Like it was just, wow, I can't believe I just got married today and we're having so much fun together. I ice skated for the first time. I was scared out of my mind, but I did it. And my son, he loved it, and we had never ice skated before. So it was just so beautiful. Like, yes, it wasn't my ideal wedding and how I wanted to get married, but the day was beautiful. Like, it was beautiful. And of course, when we got home, we consummated our marriage and things like that. So I'm on cloud nine. The next day, I wake up, I'm just like, wow, I'm married. Like, I'm looking at my ring and I'm just like, wow, I'm actually married. Like, this is real. Like this wasn't just a dream. This is real. And so the next day, we got up and we made breakfast, and I'm still on cloud nine. I'm like, wow. So then he talked about, us going looking for a bigger place because he just had a two-bedroom condo. that he was renting. So we talked about, being able to go out and look at bigger place and things like that for our family that we're planning to expand. We're going to add another child. So we went out, called some places, looked at some places, found one we fell in love with. So here is where things start turning. So during the housing process, we, are doing the paperwork, we're doing everything as far as like income. So at this time, of course, I just moved, so I'm not working. And even prior to us moving, I wasn't working. I was just receiving SSDI. And for those of you who don't know, Social Security Disability Insurance is for people who are disabled. There's different ways you can get it. You can get it from being a survivor, an adult child of someone who had worked and put in the credits necessary. But for me, I was receiving SSDI off of my own work history. So although I had been blind since I was 15, I had been working since I was 17. So I had more than enough credit. So I was bringing in quite a bit in just Social Security alone. Um, so for me, financially, I was good. Um, and so when it came time for us to, and so because this was a small town, everybody knew everybody. So everybody knew Michael. They knew his situation, what he had going on. So this is where the cracks started showing. And then I started kind of finding out that he was not who he portrayed himself to be. So during the process of house hunting, we're having to verify our income and things like that. So when the lady asked, me, how much my income was, I let her know, about $3,000 a month, a little over actually, in just disability. So I hadn't found a job yet or anything like that. So when she asked him, she basically was just verifying with him because, of course, she already knew him. And she was like, "You get about 900 a month, right, from your SSI?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's about 900." And I just kind of stopped. And I was like, "What?" And then he kind of like tried to rush the process along and kind of like, I guess shut me up in a way, you would say. So when we got outside and we were waiting for our ride, I was like, "What did she say?" And he was like, "Oh no, don't worry about it. It's just nothing." I say, "No, what did she say?" I said, "Did she say you receive SSI?" And he said, "Yeah, like what's the big deal?" I was like, "Wait a minute." I said, "We had this conversation, I don't know how many times during the course of our friendship, during the course of our relationship, courting, and even before we got married." I said, "I specifically asked you, do you receive SSI or SSDI? You swore up and down you received SSDI." And he was like, "What's the big deal? It's all this." I said, "No, it's not." And every blind person, every just person on disability knows there's a difference between SSI and SSDI. So for me, being somebody who's never really dated anybody else who was blind, that was important for me to know because that affects your income if you get married and you're receiving SSI. So basically, what it boiled down to is he lied to me. He knew that he was actually receiving SSI. So, what that meant was because he was married now, his SSI would be cut off due to him being married. And it's because of what I received in SSDI. So, I'm like, okay, I'm upset. I'm like, "Why did you lie to me? Like, I asked you what your situation was, and you swore up and down it was this. But now I'm finding out that it's that." So I'm like, he's just trying to justify it. It's no big deal. Da 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 da. So I'm already like feeling uneasy and feeling like, okay, I'm being played or I've been played. And now I'm like, okay, we're married now. I'm stuck. Like, there's nothing I really can do. So that was kind of the start of the downfall of our marriage because now I'm finding out that there's some things about him I really don't know. And there's things that he lied about. So we go on with the house situation. So then we ended up getting memberships. We wanted to get a membership at the Planet Fitness, but they don't allow children, under 12 to be there. And so we were going to try to set up a situation where he would work out, I would watch my son, and then I would work out and he would watch, our son. And they wouldn't allow us to do that. So they were like he couldn't be on the premises at all if he was under 12. So we started looking for another situation to where, we could have childcare while we worked out. So we ended up finding a rec center that was local, and they offered childcare for their members. So ended up signing up, getting a family membership, yada yada yada. That was great. All right, so we go working out. Go the first day. Now this is the day after um the house situation. So this is I would say probably about day 4 of marriage. And I'm already kind of feeling like I made a mistake. So we're at the gym and I'm, on the treadmill. No, I think I was on a bicycle. No, or elliptical. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I was on some piece of equipment. I'm just, got my music in. I'm going to town. Like I'm in my own little world. And I guess he was having trouble, like, with the machine, or he needed somebody to spot him, or whatever the case may be. And it come to find out he was used to people at the Planet Fitness basically being there on his beck and call for him while he worked out. So he wasn't getting that same treatment here at the rec center. Basically you are on your own as far as your workout. Like there's nobody there to assist or nobody to spot you and all of that. So he was getting upset because he wasn't getting the treatment that he was used to. And so he just kept nagging me and interrupting me while I'm trying to work out. And I'm just like, dude, like figure it out. Like I'm over here, trying to get my workout on. You're upset because you're not getting the pampering and the spoiling and treatment and the one-on-one attention that you're used to. Like I'm good over here. Like leave me alone. So, at this point, I'm getting aggravated because he keeps coming over and he keeps bothering me. He's keep going on and on and on and on about how, he can't do this on his own and da 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 da. And I'm like, so he switches from that to, oh, we're married, so we're supposed to be doing the same thing at the same time. And I'm like, what? Like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, that's stupid. Like, who says, oh, because we're married, we have to do the same thing at the same time? And it was like, then he started becoming very possessive. It's, oh, you're my wife now, and you have to listen to me, and da 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 da. I married you, and like it was supposed to be some kind of honor or badge, or I'm supposed to just feel in some type of way because he married me. So it got to the point where he was asking for my phone to be able to use this app called Ira. For those of you that don't know what Ira is, it's a visual interpreting service where a visual interpreting service where a volunteer person or an IRA agent can basically see your surroundings and give you a description of what's going on. So he wanted to use my phone because he was an Android user and he really didn't know how to use his phone. I come to find out. And so he didn't have this app. So he's wanting me to stop my workout, and I was listening to my music on my phone while I'm working out to give him the app so that he can ask for help. So he's going on and on and on. He's being loud, like I'm getting embarrassed, and I'm just like, you know what? Here's the phone. I don't even want to work out anymore, like, because he just ruined it for me. So I ended up giving him my phone, and I go up to the front to talk to the people at the desk to kind of find out what kind of workout programs they offer, basically just to get away from him and to find out more about the gym. Because I'm totally annoyed now. Like I'm not even in the mood to work out anymore. So I'm up there talking to them and just they're giving me more information about all the programs they offer, things like that. So while I'm up there speaking to them, I hear just all this commotion going on. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on here? So here he comes, grumbling and yelling and cussing and carrying on. And come on, let's go. I don't even want to work out no more. I'm like, excuse me, you done ruined it for me now, and you want to go because you're ready to go? And so I'm walking away from him. I'm like, look, I'm not about to be arguing with you. That's just not me. That's not my thing. So he's following behind me, still yelling, carrying on, going. I'm like, look, we are out in public. I am not about to do this with you. And he's, you're not gonna walk away from me. And this is, and so he's follow. I'm outside now. Like I'm trying my best to just let this. I'm like, just let it go. We can just go. I'll go get, my son, and we can go. Like we don't even have to do this anymore. But he's still going on and on. I'm embarrassing him, and I'm doing this and that. I'm like, what are you talking about? I haven't even done anything to you. Like you're upset because you can't get the treatment that you're used to, but you're taking that out on me and making it as if I'm doing something to you. So I ended up, going back in, getting my son from the childcare thing, and we ended up walking home. So he's trying to argue with me the whole time we're walking home. And I'm ignoring him. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this in front of my son. I'm not doing this out in public. I'm not used to living like this, and I'm not going to start. And it was like he just wanted to go on and on and on. And I'm just like, okay, we get in the house. I give my son his bath. I put him in bed. He wants to still go on about how I embarrassed him and this and that and how I'm his wife and I'm supposed to do what he says. Da 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 da. Da. I'm like, dude, if that's why you married me, we can go ahead and get this annulled right now because I am not your puppet. So, things progress. He finally decides to let it go. Next day, we go to the grocery store. I'm in the grocery store, I always come prepared, made up with my shopping list and all that because I hate, having to go from one side of the store to the next. So I already had the list made up. Person that was assisting us shopping, you know, I gave her my phone with the list on it. So we decided that for Christmas, that instead of doing a traditional, Christmas meal, like I just wanted to make a big old pot of chili and with some cornbread and, just kind of do the non-traditional. We had the whole traditional Thanksgiving dinner. So I wanted to do something different for Christmas. So we went shopping to get the ingredients for us to make the chili. So, we're shopping for the items and all of this, and he's telling me, "Oh, you got to get this seasoning and that seasoning and this." And I'm like, "Well, that's not how I make my chili." So, he's getting upset, and I'm like, "What? Like, what is the big deal? Like, I'm cooking. So let me cook the way I want. Well, my mama didn't do it like this, and she used this, and you can't make chili without using this and that." And I'm just like, are you serious? Like, we're literally in this store arguing about how to make chili. And I'm just like, and he's, trying to get the person that's helping us shop, like, to be on his side. He was like, and how, trying to get her to be on his side and like, oh, well, uh, don't you have to have this in order to make chili? And she was like, yeah, like I've known, typically, yeah, people, use this, whatever that sauce was. I don't even know what it was to make chili. I was like, well, I don't. I can't help it if that's how everybody's entitled to make things the way they want to. I said, but I don't use that. And so she asked me, she was like, well, how do you make your chili? And so I was telling her, and she was like, oh, wow, your chili actually sounds better than what I was expecting or that I've heard. And oh my goodness, why did that make him mad? He storms away, upset because the store associate actually was in agreement with what I said as far as how I make my chili. And that angered him. So then, he stomped away and then he kept coming back and trying to rush us. And I'm like, no, if you're ready to go, go ahead. But you're not going to rush us now because things aren't going your way. Now, all of a sudden, oh, we're taking too long. I'm like, if you want to go outside and wait, but we're going to continue shopping the way we were before all of this happened. Excuse me. So we leave and I'm going back to the house. What does he want to do? He wants to argue. And I'm like, oh my gosh. How I embarrassed him in the store because I tried to make him seem like he was wrong and that he was stupid and he didn't know what he was talking about. Because I said I make my chili a different way from how his mama makes her chili or made her chili. Because at this time, his mom had passed away, like in the middle of us dating. And I'm like, if your mom makes her chili or made her chili a certain way, that's fine. I make my chili different. Like you can't force me to want to make myself the way your mama made it. If you want to, then make it yourself. And that's what I told him. I said, if it's such a big deal how the chili is made, make it yourself. Then you can make it however you want to. But I am not about to stand here and argue with you over chili and how I decide to make my chili. So he kept trying to walk in front of me, and I kept trying to walk away, walk around him. He kept stepping in my path every time I tried to walk away. And I'm like, please stop stepping in front of me when I'm trying to walk away. And he was like, I'm talking to you. You don't walk away from me. So he grabbed my arm and I said, you better let me go. Don't put your hands on me. And so he eventually let my arm go. I said, "Leave me alone. I don't want to discuss this with you no more because all you want to do is argue." I said, "Every time we talk about something, it's an argument with you. If it's not the way you want it to be done, it's an argument." I said, "I didn't sign up for this. This is not what I said. You are a completely different person from how you were when before we got married. It seemed like once I signed on the dotted line, the real him came out and it was just like ongoing. So next things happened was he would always watch Bishop TD Jakes. So he started trying to make me and my son make it mandatory that we also watch Bishop T.D. Jakes. And I'm like, if that's what you want to watch, feel free. But you cannot force me to watch something I don't want to watch. Like, I don't understand. Like, we are entitled, and it was always, oh, we're married. We're married. It was like, we're married, so we're supposed to do this together. We're married, so we're supposed to do that. It was like, once you became married, there was no more identity, individual identity. So it was like everything we had to do together. We had to like the same things, we had to do the same things at the same time. There was no more individuality now that we were married. And so I started feeling like, you know what? I think I made a mistake. I think maybe I don't know this person like I thought I did. The person he portrayed to me isn't who he really is because this is ridiculous. We're arguing about the simplest things. What time to give my son a bath? Whether or not he should be spanked because he peed on himself. Like, it was like no matter what the situation was, it was an argument. And we had only been married for 4 days up until this point. But no, I could do no wrong. Before we got married, I was the best thing since sliced bread. Oh, he never met a woman that could cook as well as I could. He never met a woman that could clean as well as I could. He never met a woman that took care of her child the way I could. He was singing my praises. Once we got married, oh no, I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't clean, I couldn't cook, I couldn't, be a mom. Like everything I did was wrong. Oh, you missed a spot. There you said you cleaned this floor and there's still something on the floor. Like it was constant all berating, degrading me. Every accomplishment I had achieved, he made it seem like it was something very little and minor. Everything I did, if I said, I published 5 books, He published 6 books, even though he had never even published a book. But it was like he was always in competition with me. It was like every time I said something, he had to figure out a way to one up. If I said I was homeless for 6 months, oh, I was homeless for a year. Oh, it was just, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, do you have some underlying like mental illness that I'm not aware of? Like, what is really going on? Like, why are you being like this? And it only got worse. Like, it literally got worse. All the nightly running bath water, yeah, that stopped. Like all the things he did to get me immediately stopped. And I started finding out more things about him that was a lie. So he knew that I was not into men who drank or smoke. But you know what? As soon as we got married, yeah, all of that started. So apparently he had stopped doing, or at least he would not do smoke or drink when I was around to keep up the facade that he wasn't a man that smoked or drank. But all along, he was sneaking off, to do these things, knowing that I would not be okay with it. So it was like everything he knew that I did not want in a man was exactly who he was, and he hid it until we were married. Then all of his demons started coming out. And so, unfortunately, guys, I am running out of time, so I am going to have to stop this episode here. So there is going to be a part two of this episode, so make sure you stay tuned to get the full gist of the situation and how I ended up being a runaway bride after only 11 days of marriage. So, guys, do feel free to follow the podcast on all my major podcasting platforms. Definitely visit our website at bffempowermentpodcast.com. If you would like to be a Woman on the Rise guest on the podcast, feel free to send an email to bffempowerment@gmail.com. If you would like to just say hi, if you have any topic suggestions, anything like that, feel free to send us an email as well. Follow us on our social media platforms. We are BFF Empowerment Podcast on Instagram, Threads, YouTube, and Facebook. And feel free to follow and leave a review. Reviews are important. If you can't leave a review, then at least do a rating like on Spotify, anything like that, because that helps, the podcast continue to grow. The feedback is greatly appreciated. I want to hear the goods, the bads, what you think. So feel free to leave me a review. That really helps. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening.